Number one talk station 99.3 Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info Radio is in Port Harcourt. Nigeria Info Radio is in Abuja. Nigeria Info Radio is in Lagos here, and they are all leading talk radios in all those regions. So you can take that to the bank that we're obviously your number one. You can watch live right now on Facebook because we're streaming live. We're streaming live for those who would like to join us. For those who are on smart TV, you can actually watch as though you're watching a TV. If you're on smart TV, just log on through your YouTube and you'll be able to watch live the entire screen. Yeah, picture watching. Yeah, Nigeria. Good morning to you. I'm Sheriff Quadry. It's Monday morning. Come on, take it easy, huh? Take it easy. Let's talk population. Let's talk this all-important conversation that most people, especially policy makers, don't pay adequate attention to it. Even when you loud it, even when you shout in their ears, they still will not take it very seriously, and they should know better. Research has shown that many countries are expressing growing concern over changing fertility rate, and Nigeria is not an exception. Fertility has been relatively high in Nigeria for several years. Just the other day, I think about yesterday or 2 days ago, it was reported that 17,000 children were given birth to in IDP camps. 17,000. Okay, that's just by the way. Nigeria, as at 2020, has an estimated population of about 206 million. Estimated, though, making it the seventh most populous country in the world. The country's population is projected to increase to 263 million in 2030 and 401 million in 2050, when it will become the third most populous country in the world. Now, according to the UN, their population projection for 2020, about 43% of the Nigerian population comprise children 14 years and below. 43% are 14 years and below. 19% are between 15 and 24 years, meaning that 62% are younger than 25. Ordinarily, this should be a good thing. But why it's not a good thing? That's why I have Rotimi Sankore join us on the show. Why it could mean potentially dangerous stuff, not really entirely a bad thing. Yeah. So Rotimi is here. Rotimi, a very lovely morning to you. By the way, thank you for joining us today.
Morning, Sheriff. Thank you.
It's good to have you. Rotimi Sankore is a journalist, policy and development expert as well. He joins us via the telephone this morning. Let's start very quickly because I wouldn't want us to waste much time. I'm going to start with the current Nigeria's population trajectory. Rotimi, you heard, what data in the UN that I just reeled out. Do you have? Is it appropriate to say that that's the correct trajectory of the nation's population?
Yes, it is. And to add to the summary of your intro, it's also important to look backwards to see where we are coming from and compare with other countries to get a better understanding of how bad, our situation is, in terms of planning. So in 1960, at the time of Nigeria's independence, Nigeria was roughly 45 million people. And there are many countries we can compare with, but let's go with two significant colonial powers at the time, the UK and France. They too were roughly that same population of about 45 million. Today, those countries are just over 60 million each. So in the 60 years intervening, those countries have added 15, 16 million people to their population, and Nigeria, as you can see for yourself from your intro, has actually managed to add about 160 million. So that gives us an idea of how much our population has grown
What is responsible for this?
to others.
What is responsible for the disparity? I mean, with the disparity is so huge. The difference is so huge. What is responsible for their own growing in a couple of millions and our own going in? God knows where we're going to.
It's the birth rate or the total fertility rate. Currently, for instance, the estimated daily birth rate in Nigeria is roughly 21 children per day, or one birth every 5 or 6 seconds. And that is one of the highest birth rates in the world. I think we can also give it a bit more context so that people can grasp how bad it is before we start looking at whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm already letting the cat out of the bag that in my informed opinion, it's not a very good thing. So the total fertility rate in Nigeria right now is 5.3 children per woman. But it's important to disaggregate it so that people can see how that happens. In urban settings, is estimated to be 4.5 births per woman. In rural setting, is estimated to be 5.9 births per woman, average. But when you break it down further, you start to see where it is really coming from. So if you look at, say, some of the states in the northwest, northeast, north central, you start to see Katsina has the highest total fertility rate.
Okay.
And I should say, this is official government figure.
Okay.
It's not your figure, it's not mine. Of 7.3 children per woman. So it's always important to disaggregate data because national data hides where...
A few things, a few details, yes.
So if you want to plan, well, snapshot, you can see the national data, but you need to go subnational, geopolitical zone or state. So Katsina has higher, 7.3 children per woman. Bauchi has 7.2, Jigawa 7.1, Sokoto 7.0, Kebbi 6.5. Majority of those states are in the northwest. Then you add Gombe, Zamfara, Kano, Adamawa, all between 6.1 to 6.6. Then followed by Kaduna, Yobe, and Niger, 5.8 to 5.9. So those are the ones above 5 to 7 average children per woman.
Right.
But it is also important to say something else, that while the official rates are calculated as per woman, we have to use our own better sense of the understanding and add another layer. And in this case, that is polygamy.
Oh.
So if you add polygamy to it, and a state like Katsina, where the total fertility rate is highest at 7.3 per woman, and you add, so in Katsina, more than 50% of the women in Katsina have co-wives, 2 or 3 more co-wives. So easily you can then calculate that in Katsina, at least for half, it is 7.3 times 4. So let's just say that average man in Katsina has average of 28 children. 50% of them at least 28 children. In reality, it's closer to 32 to 36 because we are talking of average. So you see how the balance changes suddenly. So we need to take all those things into consideration when we are looking at the data.
Indeed. Before we go into whether it's a bad thing or a good thing, I want to take you back to what you mentioned earlier about Nigeria's population. I mean, a child being born almost every minute in Nigeria, about 21 or so daily, which means Nigeria is about 6th most populous nation in the world right now. Rotimi, Is this due really to birth rate, or it has other adjoining factors, government policies, education, culture, religion? I mean, what are those adjoining factors that could be responsible for this, where we now take childbearing as something to be proud about, something to flaunt, something to take to the National Assembly and flash it in front of the entire country?
Well, I mean, the first is lack of planning, really. I'm an advocate of removing the Ministry of Planning from the Ministry of Finance and Budget, because our current Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning is not really doing any planning. All the lady is doing is computing budget, and often not in a way that, pays attention to developmental issues. And it's not just her, her predecessors as well. They don't do any planning there. So lack of planning is a key issue. And you can see it in the attitude of government to individual persons. So there is no message to individual persons saying, look, don't have more children than you can reasonably care for in terms of love, in terms of attention, in terms of education, in terms of food, in terms of management, in terms of sending to school. So from the primordial feudal days, and as you can see, the total fertility is higher in feudal areas, not religion.
Okay.
Feudal. Because people will say, well, it's religion and so forth. No. There are countries in the world that practice same religion with the places where the birth rate is highest, and they have a different government attitude to it. So feudalism has meant that, in the old days, a lot of children meant you have a lot of farm hands and so forth like that, because in a feudal society, the king takes anything they want from you. You farm, and then you do you give them a lot of food in terms of submission to the king. The king knows everything. Right. The king owns the land. Right. The king runs the society. The king. So even though we are in more modern times now, where the head of societies there that go by different titles don't necessarily own the land anymore. The feudal understanding has persisted. And then, of course, if you add to it the sense of entitlement, some of which comes from religion, not all, like I said, some of which comes from religion, that women are there to be acquired like property. So, hence the issue of the polygamy we talked about. And I must mention quickly here that something like forced child marriage, which we'll go into more detail later, is also a key factor, because if you capture a little girl that is supposed to be in school at 9, 10, 11, 12, or 13, then there are more chances that before she's 30, she would have had 7, 8, 9, 10 children, probably died by the 5th, 6th, or 7th, and then there is high maternal mortality, and then the guy goes and gets another one to replace her. So these are the kind of cultural issues that you are asking about.
Indeed. Rotimi, let's put a pause here and get some calls in before we go into the nitty-gritty of whether it could be an asset or a liability. I mean, you break that down for us. But let's talk to Lagos really on what they think about population explosion. Even if I want to get a feel of whether people understand, what we mean by population explosion and the risks attached to that particular phenomenon. Let's hear from people. 0700 993 993 993. Before we go on a break, we're due for a break in a matter of seconds or so. But let's see how many calls that we can squeeze in. If you're a lady, please, we would like to hear from you. Please join our conversation. 01465 7190 is the line for the ladies. That is 01465 7190. Joe is our first caller on the show today. Joe is in Lekki. Let's look at Joe very quickly. Joe, hi, good morning to you. Hi, Joe.
Hi,
Morning to you.
good morning. All right, in the area of population, I think um, when you talk about the number of children that are being born, which is mostly coming from the north, if you notice in Lagos, there are a lot of these beggars have been children all over the place because it's like even the parents are not even able to take care of these children. They just send them out to go and beg, and they're just like Jesus all over the place. So it's also a major challenge that you ask whether it's an advantage or disadvantage. For me, it could be an advantage to have the resource to take care of them,
Okay.
and the major disadvantage is not have the resource to take care of them. I think for me, it's a matter of resource. I'm not just push it on the populace
Okay.
for to go down beg.
All right.
And unfortunately, some of them are also being used, by all these terrorists, to recruit as agents to go and do bombing and so on and so forth. I think it could be either way.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for talking to us. Appreciate it. We're going to get ready to go to break right now. Rotimi Sankore is over the telephone. Let's go to break. When we return from this break, we'll come back and we'll dig deeper into the asset or liability conversation in terms of our population in the country. Rotimi, please stay with us. We'll be right back. Stay here in Nigeria. We'll be back in a moment.
Station with the information you need.
Those who constructed the port knew ability that trucks coming to load must have to park there and wait for their turn to load. That was why the spaces were provided. Now you came and sold those spaces and congestion everywhere. Then truck who want to load now will not park along the road. It doesn't work.
We don't micromanage this committee from Abuja. No, it's a local affair. These are people who know the people within the state and who know those who actually need these jobs within the state.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
News and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment. You can rest assured we will take this jolly ride with you. I'll bet it's on you, 'cause you are a winner. We'll win with you. We'll run with you all the way. We'll share your dreams and we'll turn them to reality. We're invested in your tomorrow.
ARM invested in your tomorrow.
Apollo, my guy. How every now?
Benjo, what thing now? That is money you just to call me.
See, 9 Mobile, they give me call bonus while I not finish. Now all my guys go here out.
If you never recharge your 9 Mobile line for 40 days or more, recharge 200 naira and above, and we go summer you 6 times your recharge and double data bonus.
Apollo, my guy.
Benjo, see, I go block you now. I go block you now. You go see him.
Terms and conditions day. 9 Mobile.
Hey Lagosians, some thrilling news for you here. Do you know that Air Peace, Nigeria's premier airline, is launching flight operations into Ilorin on Thursday, June the 17th, 2021? Yes, that's right. Now this means you can fly daily to Ilorin from Lagos and Abuja while experiencing our signature hospitality offered by a well-trained crew. Fly with Airpeace to Ilorin and enjoy peaceful skies as you take advantage of our affordable fares. For bookings, head to our website on www.flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace mobile app on Play Store or App Store. Go on, start booking, and share the great news. Airpeace, your peace, our goal.
Bros, why are you cutting down the tree?
What kind of question is that? What is the use of the tree?
Did you know that every 14th of July is set aside to celebrate the Lagos State Tree Planting Day? The Tree Planting Day is an initiative to restore the environment, improve physical health, and a defense mechanism against global warming. This year's theme is Recover and Restore, with special activities like ceremonial tree planting at designated locations by Mr. Governor, the Deputy, and their wives.
Also, free tree seedlings will be distributed across its 57 local government and local council development areas.
The vision for a greener and healthier Lagos is of paramount importance to the Lagos State Administration. So, go plant a tree today.
Yes, I will, because now I know better.
What are you doing?
I'm planting a tree, of course. Last Park for a greener, healthier Lagos. This message was brought to you by Lagos State Parks and Gardens Agency. Last Park.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk. This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
And we're back on the Crossfire, 99.3 Nigeria Info. You can watch live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. Nigeria Info 99.3 is what you need to type in the search box and will pop up on your screens. Feel free to join us and drop your comments. We're discussing Nigeria's population, whether it's an asset or a liability. Rotimi Sankore, journalist and a policy and development experts, joins us on the show today. Rotimi, thank you so much for taking time out to join us on the conversation of the Morning Crossfire today.
Thank you.
Again, yesterday, July 11th, was World Population Day. It is celebrated annually on 11th of July to focus attention on the urgency, the importance of population issues. The day was established by the then Governing Council of the UN Development Programme in 1989. The theme for World Population Day 2021 is Rights and Choices Are the Answer, whether baby boom or bust. The solution to shifting fertility rates lies in prioritizing all people's reproductive health and rights. Oh yes, that's the theme. Is that long? Rotimi, let's come to Nigeria's situation now. We're growing at an alarming rate. Could this be a blessing or could it be a curse?
Well, it's. Let's look at the context in which it could be an asset or a blessing. So, if all children have access to quality education, 12 years minimum, that is primary and secondary, free and quality education, and at least 50 to 80% of them then go on to have some technical, vocational, or tertiary education. Then the quality of the human capacity, the workforce, is then stronger, then better. Then, if there is key infrastructure to support them, especially electricity, then it starts to look more like an asset. Now, the reason it is not an asset and it is a liability is that currently we have estimated 13 million children out of school. Those are the independent figures. Government claims it is 10 million. We should say that. So it is 10 million to 13 million, depending on whether you believe the government's claim that they reduced the out-of-school children by 3 million during the year of COVID when all schools were closed. They haven't told us where those schools were built, the classrooms were built, and so forth. So I will stick with the 13 million. According to the Minister of Education, there are at least 60 million adults unable to read or write. So whether you take it as a government underestimation or not, I leave it to you. There are at least 100 million living in extreme poverty. That's roughly half the population. Of the workforce, the unemployment is 33%. Underemployment, that is those working roughly 20 hours or less in a week, is 23%. So combined unemployment and underemployment is 55%. Now you disaggregate further. We always have to do that to dig deeper and understand it. For the youth age 15 to 34 years, which is roughly 50% of the workforce, the unemployment is higher at 42%. The national is 33%. So you can start to see now that all the education and work indices is starting to look like it's not an asset at all. We need to explain more why what I've just explained exists.
Yes, please.
So about 70% of children that start primary school are not able to proceed to secondary. You see now where the problem is starting. The investment in education is not there, especially in Northwest, Northeast, North Central. Of 4 million children seeking admission, that is those that make it to secondary school and then want to go on to tertiary and pass, not that they failed, and pass. Of the 4 million, there are only about 2 million places in all the tertiary institutions combined. So about 50% of those that want to continue are unable to, not because they didn't pass, but because there are no places
to put them
for them. So what we have is that about 80% of our workforce, the highest level of education completed is secondary school. 80% of the workforce. Whereas we should have about 80% that have technical, vocational, or higher tertiary qualification to improve the quality of the workforce. So what we have now, 80% highest education completed secondary school automatically equals low-paying job. Low-tech economy, low-paying job, which means we have about 100 million living in extreme poverty. So you start to see why all those situations happen.
Right.
Now we need to mention something regarding in the context of fertility and reproduction. So about just roughly 49 to 50% of women in Nigeria have secondary education. That's roughly. If you disaggregate it, you will see that in some states it's only 12, 13, or 14% of the girls that have secondary education, but the national average is roughly 49 or 50%. Whereas for men, up to 65% of men have at least secondary education. So when you look at those education, job skill data, you see that it is not an asset at all. Why? Because one, government has not done the necessary in terms of planning. Government has not done the necessary, especially in terms of ensuring that girls are able to go to school, because the higher the educational qualifications of women, the less children they have. Education is the best contraception ever. It's the best form of family planning. We will look at why later in the context of more details on data like first child marriage. State.
I even want us to dig deeper right now, Rotimi, about the family planning. You and I know, and I'm sure our listener also knows, that government never kept quiet about family planning. It's always there in our faces, and this has refused to work. At least it hasn't worked as much as we would have loved to. Our population is still growing at an alarming rate, Rotimi. It's almost looking like we have to find another way to educate adults out there.
Well, when you say government never kept quiet about family planning, you are talking mainly about some parts of the country.
Oh,
You are talking mainly about some, because the ability to access family planning depends on the level of human rights that somebody has. So if you have no rights to freedom of movement, association, expression, and more importantly, if you have no right to bodily integrity or bodily autonomy, in other words, your body is not yours. You know, somebody tells you what you can do with your body or what you cannot do with it. I think at this stage, really, we better just go into some of the details on the first child marriage so that people can understand better why that problem exists. So it's 43% average across the country. But if you start looking at it state by state, you see it is highest in some places like Jigawa is 87% of all the women in Jigawa have been forced into child marriage. So it's not 87% of children. It's 87% of all women in Jigawa have suffered forced child marriage with all the consequences. No education, of course, no control over body, no bodily integrity or autonomy. Some people think these things are just feminist slogans. It has real implication on life. Bauchi, 84% of all women. Yobe, 81%. Katsina, Sokoto, and Zamfara, 79% of all women have suffered forced child marriage. Kebbi, 73%. Kano, 68. Gombe, 65. Borno, 60. Kaduna, 56. Niger State, 54. And then Bayelsa, 54. So if you look at Bayelsa 50. So if you look at all the states in the country that have over 50% of their women population forced into child marriage, over 50%, start with Bayelsa, Jigawa highest. Now, in the states where this is now combined with polygamy, so if you see what we talked about earlier, that's high fertility rates, highest in Katsina, 7.3, combined with 3-4 women, mostly girls forced into child marriage, you see 28-32 children per man. Now, I need to mention at this point, we'll come to it later in more detail, that the listeners' audience can now start to see that these are also the most insecure parts of the country. The places where the states are more fragile. Why? Because the bandits have access to more recruits. The extremists have access to more recruits. A lot of them are orphans. Remember, these are the states also that have the highest maternal mortality. That is, the girls dying of pregnancy-related causes. So there is high number of orphans easily recruited. Also, highest hunger. The level of hunger average in Nigeria is 44%. Highest in Katsina, 58%. Again, official figure, not mine, not yours. These are official figures signed off on by the minister. Katsina State, highest hunger and malnutrition in the country, 58%. They also have highest fertility per woman or girl in the country, 7.3%. They also have highest polygamy in the country, over 50%. You can start to see the correlation. The lack of planning, the lack of bodily integrity, the lack of girls' human rights, the lack of access to education, the lack of access to family planning and contraception. So if you're a girl child forced into marriage, I mean, how can you raise your hand and say, excuse me, sir, the 7.3 children is too much. I think at this point, family planning, I mean, you will get what they call in Lagos a 40, I mean, if you don't speak Yoruba, it means a dirty slap.
Rotimi, thank you for dropping that in. We're going to go back to telephone because I want us to we need to go deeper into the consequences of overpopulation. You've mentioned quite a few of them. I'm still because it doesn't really affect. It affects everybody, even the government and their spending, their budgeting, and everything, provision of amenities and all of it. But let's go to the telephone.
You mean the lack of spending?
Yes, the lack of spending, because they will keep struggling to spend when your population is growing, beyond what you can handle. But let's speak with James first. After James, we'll take more calls. Hi, James. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Sheriff.
Morning to you.
And good morning, Rotimi, Sankore. Okay. This population explosion, like Nigeria now, we are on the verge of having population explosion. If not, we're not having it already. Now, my big concern is this: what will the government do? I'll ask Rotimi this question: what can be the solution? How can these be advantageous to us? Because I don't want us to be looking at the bad side, how detrimental it is to us. How can it be of benefit to the economy?
Right.
I know the things that he highlighted, most of those things in the north that is causing that could trigger that's making it not advantageous because forced child marriage, extremism, all those things coming up in the north.
Yeah.
Now, how can this population, because China did something to channel their own population. In fact, they came up with a policy: one family, one child per family. So, what's the concerted effort that can be done to manage the situation? Because right now, it doesn't look as if it could be controlled.
James, thank you for your thought. That China's policy is not for the entire Chinese people, by the way. It's just for a tribe that is quite synonymous with giving birth and all. And even that policy has been changed like twice already. Now three. Yeah. Let's speak with Felix quickly. Felix, hi. Good morning to you.
Hello. Good morning, Sheriff.
Yes, please. Good morning.
Sheriff, these figures are scary.
They are.
These figures are scary. 87% of women into forced marriage. Something has to be done. And to think that these people are the ones that have been in control of power in Nigeria for God knows how long. And these figures are being rolled out, and they know it, and they see it, and they don't think there's anything that needs to be done. Something is wrong. Something has to be done. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Thank you, Felix, for calling. Appreciate it. We'll take one more before we get back to Rotimi. Hello, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Fidelis.
Welcome, Fidelis. Welcome.
Sir, these figures we are hearing, are the government not aware of it? Because we really don't know. This one that even the lawmakers, they are not doing anything about it. We don't know. We don't know because in the next 5 years, I wonder what the population will throw this country into. Thank you.
Thank you too for calling me, Rotimi. Callers will not allow us to talk, but we have to, go. The first caller asked about what can be done. I mean, he took that out of my last set of questions for you, but let's just deal with it right now because of time. What can be done?
Well, I mean, it's access to family planning and contraception to start with. And currently, that is highest in Lagos at 49%. The only other state in which family planning, all methods, is over 40% is Anambra State at 44%.
Okay.
Access to family planning is lowest in Katsina again, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Yobe, less than 5%. I mean, most of those states in Northwest and Northeast is roughly 10, 11, 12%, very low. There's even a state where it is 1.4%, So, obviously, access to family planning it will improve the situation.
So,
But
Rotimi,
that
I'm
means-
sorry to butt in, but why is this so, though? Why is this so that they have very poor access to family planning, methods in the parts that most need it?
Well, because in those parts, there is no recognition that women's rights are human rights. There is low recognition that girls and women have a right to access to education. There is no or low recognition that girls or women have right or access to independent income. So you will find that, as I always remind people, the countries at the top of the Global Human Development Index also happen to be the countries that have the highest respect for women's rights and girls' right to education. The countries at the bottom have the lowest respect for women's rights and girls' access to education. So while girls and women have their rights fundamental, you shouldn't touch it, you shouldn't affect it, to education, to human rights, to independent income, to bodily integrity and autonomy and so forth. All those things also happen to have a positive impact on economy and development. So in the places where those rights are not respected, those parts of the country or parts of the world, for that matter, are also less developed. So if you look at, say, Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Afghanistan, places like that, Central African Republic, the total fertility rate there is the same as, say, Katsina or Zamfara. So this is not like a Nigeria. I mean, there is a global formula for this. So in the countries where girls have better access to education, have lesser number of children, have more income, those are the countries people want to run away to, like Canada, like Sweden, and so forth like that. So this is what the government and the state government need to do. Abolish first child marriage, give all girls the right to education, 12 years minimum, at least, preferably tertiary. Now, as for our caller that was saying that something needs to be done, that something needs to include the 13 million children out of school need to find schools.
That's right.
The government says 10 million. If the government does not provide the schools for them, the kids cannot find any schools to go to. That 10 million children, by the government's data, if you use UNESCO figure of, say, 20 to 25 children per class, that should give us over 300,000 classrooms or about 14,000 schools. Then you build those schools according to the states where there is a deficit. You need adult education for the 60 million adults unable to read or write, so that you fix the deficit. We need to fix the electricity deficit. It's the global standard is 1,000 megawatts per 1 million. So Nigeria should be at 200,000 megawatts. Remember, I said religion is not the problem.
That's right.
Qatar, population of Qatar is 2.9 million. They have 10,000 megawatts of power. The same population as Alimosho local government, 10,000 megawatts of power. We are 206 million. We are sharing 5,000 megawatts of power. Sometimes it drops to 1,000. So without electricity, there is no industrialization. The less industrialized, the less insecure, the more fragile, the more you have all this problem of extremists, bandits, and even in urban centers, Agbero. The Agbero in Lagos are out of school children that have grown up, except that we have a sector of the economy, transport economy, that soaks them up. Without them fighting over the ticket money and so forth every day, and their guys becoming billionaires and becoming very influential, they will be facing normal people every day in their own version of urban banditry.
We still have them. We have the 1 million boys. We have the Awawa boys. They are there.
That's why I'm pointing out. So people shouldn't think that these problems are just northwest, north central. It's just worse there because they've overrun those places to the extent that some of the states have failed. Without army presence, Borno State has failed, Yobe has failed, Katsina has failed, Zamfara has failed, Niger is about to fail, and so forth like that. Kaduna is about to fail. So in Lagos, don't forget, when two factions of Agbero were fighting, we keep laughing at Governor Masari, saying the bandits betrayed him after negotiation. Don't forget, in Lagos, the Lagos governor had to intervene and host factions of Agbero for peace meeting. It gives you an indication
my goodness me. My goodness me. Rotimi, we must leave it here this morning. We must leave it. We are totally out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, please.
Audience can join us on Friday, 4 p.m., Public Square, where we have a World Population Day special. And we are launching an incredible campaign for the future of the 43% of children under the age of 15. What do we need to do in Nigeria to make their lives more secure, their future more secure, the future of the 43% under 15? Friday, 4 p.m., Public Square.
Public Square. Rotimi Sankore, thank you again for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
There you go, Lagos, Nigeria. Rotimi Sankore, journalist, policy and development expert, joined us on the show this morning. Thank you all. We can't play just a minute today, but we'll try and play tomorrow. I mean, population is a big issue in the country today. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm across social media platforms at Sheriff Quadry. Say hello to me across social media platforms. You can also send me an email if you got an information for me. My email address is sheriff@nigeriainfo.fm. All right. Coming up next is Table Talk with Imadi Uni. I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Good morning to you.
In the
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info.